Hey there, everybody. So today we're going to draw Chapter 9, the end of the chapter exercises. I'm not going to bother drawing the first one as is customary, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into these. And it says 250 minutes, but I don't think it'll take you guys that long. So the first one is going to be in inches. And looking at it, I think that we'll draw this view here first, since it'll give us the most definition. So we'll start a sketch on the plane, and I'm going to draw roughly what it looks like. I have to add in this little cutout portion here. Honestly, both views give about the same amount of definition though. Let me think of that. Yeah, we'll still do this view, but neither one of them's like perfect by any means. Alright, so I've got a straight line, a little slant, flat, another slant, and a straight line. A dimension of 3. I'm going to go ahead and do a vertical constraint. The center point at the bottom to the origin center point, and then a coincident from the line to the origin. It's 2.5 tall. This little slant is 1 inch wide. Add an angle of 45. Alright, and then this one is 1 inch. And 45 slant as well. So we'll go ahead and extrude it. It's going to be 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut away the portion here on both sides. So I'm going to draw on the side view 2 rectangles. Set them to equal each other. And I'm going to slice the graphic so I can see a little better. I believe it was 0.5. Yes, and then 1 minus 0.375, so 0.625. Actually, no. 2.5 minus 0.375, so 2.125. Alright, so I'm going to make it collinear on top. Make the sides collinear. And we're just going to do a through all cut both ways. Alright, so next we have a hole. And you can either do a center mark and then do your hole command, or you can draw the circle on here. I'm just going to draw the circle. Either way is fine. Alright, it's going to be 1 from this bottom edge. That's 1 over from this edge. And a diameter of 1.5. I do want to note that this sketch is aligned to this space. If for whatever reason you end up hitting a view cube and you're off center, you can hit view, look at, choose that face, and it'll line it back up for you so you can get back to drawing like normal. So then we'll cut through all both ways, and that should be it for this one. Oh, I'm wrong. I forgot you're doing drawings now, so let's go ahead and open up a drawing. Let's see what it says. So it says just make the drawing. And I've got to save it first. Okay, so this one I believe was called the rod guide, rod slide. Alright, so we're going to use this as our front view just because that's what the book used. You know, we really probably don't need all these views. We'll kind of take a look at it. But one thing we definitely will need for each of these in this chapter is an auxiliary view. That way, when we're dimensioning this face, it will be true to size. Because, you know, we knew that this dimension from this edge to that center was 1, but if I dimension it here, it's not 1. You have to do it where the face is perpendicular. So we have to do it in an auxiliary view in a case like this. And I'm not going to worry about putting anything custom. I'm just going to put the dimensions the book has. So I'm just going to look at the drawing and add them in as I go. Try to avoid the points like that if you can, midpoints. You want to try to dimension where you have a gap between these edges. So if I choose mistakenly this point here and then some other edge, it'll... Well, I take it back. That might be new to 2020. Yeah, try to always ensure you have a gap between right there. We have 0.25 or 0.375, but I'm going to dimension it over here just because it's a little more clear. And this one was 3 decimal places, so I'm going to change it to be 3. Dimension here. And I guess we can give an overall width in this view as well. It's your choice whether you put it on top or bottom, but since I have dimensions on top already, I'm going to leave this side open. But we do need a center line. And if you want, you can extend it past the part. Try to keep that line whole, so I'm going to make it a little shorter than it should be. We need a depth. So I'm going to dimension it here. I kind of like this view for most of this, but I know we can definitely delete this view. And if you want to keep this the ISO view, that's fine. Doesn't matter too much. We do have a giant paper space here, so I guess I should talk a little bit about this. If it's too small, you can always scale it up a little bit. So it looks like for this one, you know, about the scale of 1.5 would be ideal. Because you want it to take up the majority of the space, but not so much that it's gigantic and just cumbersome. And you know, one of these views I would advise turning on the view label and then actually calling it what it is. If you want to get very technical about it, you can actually go in here, edit that text, choose this view, the brackets, and that's actually the view label, as you can see here. And you know, if there was a property for it, I'm not sure if there would be, you could choose file name. I don't think it has that IPT, but you know, if you went in and set a right property, you could automate the process of naming it here. But anyways, go ahead and keep putting any center marks. I'm just going to drag this center line down since we know the hole goes all the way through. Make sure dimensions are not on the model. That would be a faux pas. So notice I'm also trying to avoid dimensions between views. The only one I have here is the 1 because there's no better place to put it. If I drag it over here, it would intersect all these other lines. Okay, so missing 0.5 dimensions on the left and right. And I think I'm going to put them down here. That's not too much of a overlap, but it sure is a lot easier to read when you have all these dimensions right beside each other. Yeah, that should be it for this one. Like I said, try to optimize your space. So at this point, I would kind of play around, try to maneuver things in a position where you have a similar amount of space between here and here, here and here, here and here, and there and there. So I'm going to kind of pivot this to the left and up a bit. That's pretty close. I think I'll roll with that. I didn't even think to mention it either, but this should be all caps. So, unfortunately in drafting, I always have to use all caps. I'm not a fan, but, picked it up to somebody else. I didn't create the standards. Alright, so anchor base. Looking at this one, let's do this side view, and then later on we'll add in this portion here. Actually, I think we'll just do a full extrusion of this profile, and then I'll just cut out this portion, and then we'll do some fillets and make it look good. Alright, so roughly the shape appears to be something like this. Clearly not the scale. I don't know if it took all my perpendicular ideas there. I'm going to slap perpendicular in right here. Okay. So let's start with this 1.5. Make sure it's aligned. And that should scale it. Some parts kind of a little bit of everywhere. I think that I'm going to just choose this portion here as a base. It kind of looks like it's a mating base, so why not? Ooh. Let's put in a few more dimensions before we change that angle. Make sure this is aligned. Boy, okay. Doesn't like some of this yet. That's okay. Let's do 0.12. If you ever have that problem, do the same thing. Just try giving it a little more definition before you try the same thing. Sometimes, this controls too much, and it might be a problem at first. Let's try it now. Yeah, it's still kind of problematic. That's okay. I'm just going to tug it to flip it back. Now I'll put in this 30. Okay, here's what I'm missing. I need a 0.75 dimension. That was my bad. I should have seen that earlier. It would have been a good thing to lock it down. Okay, so we have the 0.75. That's from the top of here to this ridge that we've been kind of using as a basis. Let's see, what else are we missing? Looking for a thickness right here. Interesting, because I'm not seeing it. Ah, we're missing another height. I believe that's 0.25. Let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So it's 1 inch from it still doesn't give a ton, does it? All right, let me kind of just look at this one. So we need a width of some sort here, or a length of this portion here. We have the 0.5. Oh, this point is tied to that edge. Okay, so make this horizontal line coincident to that point. That'll do it. Sorry, I apologize. I haven't actually drawn these before, so kind of just ballparking it. All right, so it's 2 inches long. And let's see. Let's go ahead and do this cutout here, little slot. I'm gonna take a couple of sketches to define this one completely. So I'm just gonna make a random slot. And it's 0.5 from the end. The line is 0.75. 0.3 tall. It's 0.37 from this edge. And we'll cut it. Okay. So now we need a little box to cut out this portion here. And, you know, the same thing applies. If you get your view cube messed up, you can do the look at command to align to that face again. Just a friendly reminder. So I ought to get back on my sketch panel here. Alright, so we need a random rectangle. It's going to be 1.5 to the end of it. And then it's going to extend to the edge of that face. And it'll be collinear here and here. So let's cut it. Oops. Okay. So now we just need our radii. It's 5 times 0.25. So we've got 1. We're also missing a hole still, I see. Oops. If you ever select the wrong one, you can hold Control to deselect. Next thing you click. So I'm going to hold Control. And there's 5. Alright, so let's put that hole in. I actually should have had it in this last sketch, so I'm just going to go back in and retroactively add it. So it's 0.5 from that same edge. Also of 0.5 in size. And it's centered on this bottom portion. So I'm just going to say it's that portion divided by 2. And then I'm going to edit that original feature to add it in. Alright, so let's detail it. Looks good. Actually, I guess we'll have to save it first, so anchor base. And just because you have to use all caps in drafting doesn't mean you have to name files in all caps. For your own sanity of file management, I would say, you know, use regular lettering. And let's see. Let's go ahead and do the ISO again. I kind of like having it. Then we'll do an auxiliary view off of this edge, so it's kind of out of the way. And if you notice, I scaled 3 to 1. Now, say this gets a little out of the pan, you can always right-click and hit alignment break on this view, and it'll let you move it freely. Now, if you're going to do that, it might be easier just to move this little break off the page. You can't delete it without deleting the view. If you want something kind of tidy like this, you know, you're going to have to break your views. So now we'll just put in our center marks everywhere that they belong. You know, and obviously in a view like this, they don't look very good, but just to show what you're going for there, you might as well add it. I'll do a center line between the center marks and then hit OK or create. I'm going to extend this one so it goes past the body. And then there's this option up here, center line bisector. Choose it, it'll let you put center lines between two hidden lines. Notice in isometric view, we never do that. It just would clutter up the view. So, all right, so we've got this. Now you may notice there's no gap right here between the center lines. This is because of what I chose. Make sure you're getting that endpoint and not lower on the line. You should always have a little gap there. And if you don't, it's not very clear. Like, look at the difference there. Undo and redo. The gap does make a difference. It gives a lot of context clues before you even actually get into the details. It helps when you're trying to quickly scan stuff in your head to find out what it is. So make sure you're putting it. And then the circle has to be dimensioned true to size. So we're going to dimension it over here. And let's see. We'll dimension this. Let's put our circle over here. It's kind of a decent spot. Let's see, what else are we missing here? The slot size. We'll put it over here. I like it, you know, it's large to be on the drawing, but it looks bad, so we're gonna put it over here. Now, since I know people are gonna draw this view when they do it mostly, because that's the quickest way, I'm not gonna put this 0.25 here, because you saw I was struggling trying to find it. So I'm going to think about how someone else would draw it and put this 0.25 dimension here. And I'm going to try to dimension everything that does make sense to dimension in this view. I'll put that 20 right there so I can stay off the model. I do want to point out one thing. So if I click this edge for the first dimension and then this one, the dimension points this way. If I click this edge first, it'll point the other way. So note that your first selection chooses the direction your dimension will hang off if you're going to have a dimension small enough to where it can get inside of the arrows. For instance, I should actually choose this edge first because I know that this angle is going to have to flip inside. And let's see, I think that may be it for this one. You know, one thing we are missing still is the radius node actually. So I'm going to dimension it, and then before it, I'm going to double click dimension for the fillet, put 5 times, okay. You could also use the whole note here, I believe, but we won't bother with that yet. Alright, so here is this one. Once you get your dimensions in place, I would say, you know, reposition, try to keep equal spacing between views while taking up, you know, as much paper as possible to make it easy to read. You want to be able to, you know, zoom out, look at it and say, oh, okay, I can easily tell what's what. When you print it, it looks right. Alright, the bevel washer. Now for this one, I think we'll just draw this front view and then we'll do a plane and draw on this next portion. That's going to be inches. it's almost where it sucks because like something like this you have to do 2 views, and it hurts when it's such a tiny little thing to have to either add in this arc portion or the square. But that's fine. We'll commit to this view. Sometimes you can't just have a convenient one, you know. All right, so instead of drawing a bunch of lines, I'm just going to go ahead and start with a rectangle and delete off part of it. And then I'm going to draw here, make that little bottom portion, and trim away the rest. So it's going to be 3 plus 2, because this is a diameter of 4 because it's tangent to this arc. This arc is tangent to this box shape. So we'll take 2 plus 3, so it's an overall width of 5. And this little tidbit's 0.5. So is this. And this is 0.75. Now I'm going to choose this point right here to be the basis for the sketch. Really not a great one, so kind of picking a random one. But I did miss something in the sketch. Let's see what it was. It's perpendicular. Okay. So now it's going to be 4. And we'll go ahead and put in that arc shape. Now instead of doing a regular circle, I'm actually going to do a tangent circle. But in order to do that, I've got to project my edges. So I'm going to do that. And then I will just choose each edge. That saves a little bit of time having to, you know, draw it. Pretty mindless to produce that little tidbit. Okay, so there's that. And now we need a plane. Now, something like this is pretty straightforward. You can probably get away doing it a lot of ways, but I'm going to choose angle to a plane around an edge. The plane I'm going to choose is a surface where we know that will reside. I'm going to choose the actual edge, and then it automatically defaults to 90. It's a little confusing. If you're looking at the direction of the arrow, I need 30, but it's going down. So I'm going to type in -30. I could also type in 330, you know, like a Cartesian plane, how you've got the different directions, but that's confusing. So we'll just do -30, go backwards, and we'll draw. Now this sketch to me is very jarring, so I'm going to turn the visibility off, if I can click it, and then I'm going to project this edge. I'm going to have to do a look at because I rotated, so I'll have to look at that plane again. And what I might be able to get away with, and let's try and see, I'm going to try to do an offset of this original shape. I don't think it'll do it, but it would be cool if it did. Nope, okay, that's fine. So I'm going to undo to get rid of those edges. Would have been cool, would have been cool. Okay, and again, to save some time, I'm going to use a rectangle as a template. Just delete off a line, and then I'm going to extend. And now I'm just going to constrain and add a few dimensions here. So 1.5. I'm just going to add a point here for our other hole, because if I extrude, it's not going to be through all. That's a through all hole. I'll be adding. So now we'll point. Then I'm going to vertically align it. It's 2.5. But we also need to set this edge to this edge. So now we've got a little bit of broken geometry. Let's go ahead and put a perpendicular, and we'll extrude it. Now, you know, you could try your hardest to try to get, you know, the right number to get this set up right, but as you see, it's going through You don't have to do anything crazy. You can just choose 2 next, and it'll do it for you. Or I could choose 2, but sometimes 2 may not work, so I would just choose 2 next. Depends on how complicated of a part you're dealing with. I'm going to turn on the visibility again. It's going to choose that hole by default. Oh my. Did I draw this entire thing in the wrong dimensions? Okay. Thank goodness. Okay. Not sure why it's defaulting to 20 millimeters, but that's okay. So we'll type in 1.50. Well, you know, it's already saying inches, but just to be safe, I'm going to type in IN. Okay. Let's turn the sketch back off. You know, I didn't even pay any attention if we had it through all. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, so let's do another drawing after we save. And let's see. It's funny because parts like this you barely even need a view. We might just do an auxiliary view for this one. I'm just going to place these views as placeholders. Let's do the auxiliary off the space. Yeah, and you know what? Let's just, well, let's see. Let's give a dimension for the widths. Let's just delete these 2 views here. Sometimes, you know, more is not more, really. It's just clutter. That's too big, so let's do 1.51. Turn on my view label by double clicking, hitting the light bulb, and typing in bevel washer, all caps. We'll play around with placement in a bit, but there's kind of a decent placeholder. Okay, so where to start? In this one, if you notice this edge isn't present, I'm going to turn on tangent edges by double clicking the view and going to display options and turning on tangent edges. That way that view is in there with the tangent edges actually visible. Like you couldn't see this before, I don't think. Yeah. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but in this case, in order to avoid having another view, we'll put it. So we have that 3 dimension, 0.5, 0.75, and 0.5. I'm going to go ahead and put my center line in. And in a case like this, having a center line for this top portion would be kind of silly. So we're not going to put it. It would just overcomplicate it, I feel like. So we need our 30 dimension. And you know what? I like that. Okay. Cool. Our center mark. Yeah, see, that's gross. Okay, we'll just keep the 1. I tried, though. Put the width 3. Be careful that you're dimensioning to the right edge here. Again, make sure you're avoiding dimensions between views where possible. That should be it. You know, if you want to be really technical, you could also locate the circle in this direction. It's up to you on that. I think that's it. Yep. Okay. So now let's work on view placement again. I can definitely pull this in. I thought there might be some work in here, but there really wasn't. I'm going to pull this up just a smidge, maybe this over. That seems pretty close. So then I can select them all and pull it up just a smidge. Pretty close. Okay. So next is the V block, angle V block, inches. Now this one, we have a great center point. We're going to do the top view first and draw that rectangular base, and we're going to use the 2-point center rectangle. It's a little big, but that's okay. And it's 7 by 5. All right, so all the holes are 1 by 1 in this 0.75 circle. So 1, 1, and I'm not going to dimension all of them. I'm just going to dimension the two that are diagonal from each other. The rest we can constrain in. I'll dimension one circle, the one I'm most likely to draw first. And reposition these a bit since they float around. So we'll set this to equal this one to equal that one to equal this one, and then we'll put in some vertical and horizontal constraints, and that'll lock in the rest. And it's going to be a thickness of 0.5. I'm going to extrude down. That way we still have this origin here conveniently if we need to use, this plane or whatever. We don't, but you never know. Okay, so next up, I have this rectangle. Not a great starting point. We might just do a top view for it as much as I hate to. Let's see. Yeah, so what we're given is a point, basically, an angle, but not a great edge. So we'll just do a top view. Kind of sucks, but, it is what it is. So I'm going to draw just a random 2-point rectangle and rotate it. Okay, trying to deselect, that's okay. I'm just going to choose a random point and say yes, so it rotates. All right, seems pretty close. So 2.5 from this edge and 1.25 from the other edge. The square itself is 3 wide by 2.75. The angle is 45 degrees, I believe. Yep. That's that. Okay. Now it's going to be 2.5 tall. And we'll add in all that detail on it. I'm going to go ahead and slice the graphics. What's with that edge in the world? Oh, it's from the slice graphics. That's weird. Okay. It's fine. Alright. So there's a rough shape. Trim it. There's a lot of different ways to draw that, but I'm not even going to bother with dragging that. I'm just going to go ahead and put the dimension in. only thing we're missing is that I need to set these two lines to equal each other. That'll make it symmetrical. Uh-oh. I goofed. Or did I? Oh, okay. It looks off, but I think it's just because, you know, they a lot of times have these in kind of a semi-perspective look. We'll go ahead and do the drawing, and if something comes up, we'll fix it on the fly. No problem. This is angle V block. Okay, so first and foremost, we'll do that top view. Well, I say that. Man, I hate to do it, but let's do a front view and then a top view. View placement wise, it just looks better when, you know, you commit to that as being your front, so it's fine. As far as this goes, auxiliary view, we'll project it down to the right, and I'm going to go ahead and just break the alignment. It's clearly going to be a bit cumbersome in its location it has right now. Alright, so let's turn on that view label. I'm going to start over here since I just finished it. I kind of have a good memory of what's going on. A lot of times, if you notice, you know, align dimensions are usually pretty friendly, but this one's not unless you place it really close to the edge. Otherwise, it'll try to stop being aligned. So I'm going to place them ahead of time before I zoom out, and then I'll reposition. Because see, as soon as you get too far away, it's just like breaks alignment. That's okay. So I am going to dimension so that it flips outward, and then I'm going to pull it and align it to this one. And we'll do something like that. See, even then we're having the same struggle. I think this is the one time where, due to space constraints, we are going to actually put this on the model, because it would look bad down here, and up here it's too busy. So okay, so that's it for that one. I guess we put the width up here as well. Awfully busy, but you know, there's no better view to draw that than that view right there at that point. So worth it. The only things I'm going to have in this view, probably just going to be this height right here. I'm going to keep it basic, because this is the view that has all the good stuff. Let's go ahead and put our center marks before we forget. And you know what? I guess that's a center mark too, actually. So okay. You know what? I'll try to keep it up with how the book did it. And don't forget to put your quantity in front of your hole. And then we have to locate this guy. For these, I think we will put them on top of the model as well. Sometimes it's just, you know, more indicative of what you're going for when it's on the model. I might be able to get this one over here. Let's see. It looks pretty bad, so we'll keep it like that. That may be it. Let me double check. The only thing we need to add is this width here of the actual part, and it will be on the model as well. And then this overall height. We'll shift all that over. A little bit too much space on the left. Okay. Oh, okay. This one's gonna be fun. Oh, the angle support. Okay. That is millimeters. And let's see. So this one, we're going to need multiple sketches to really get all of this. So we'll start with a top view. That seems like a great foundation where it's easy to visualize how to get this arc like that. So and I'm going to use this circle as my my origin point. That's just a good point. Anytime I can stack that, I'm definitely going to. So the radius is 40. Now for now, this circle is going to be this one. I'll do the hole later because we're going to have to. Well, you know what? Now I'll go ahead and do the hole now. I'll commit to that. Okay, so 35. And I'll do a rectangle. And I'll delete this edge. Make a tangent. Trim. Okay, so it's going to be 95. And let's see, we must need a perpendicular, yep, perpendicular for a vertical constraint there. That's 95, 40, 35. We'll do 20 up. Now this might seem tricky, but we're going to do kind of a similar thing. We'll do angle to plane around edge. I'm going to choose the bottom edge because that's really where all of our information is coming from. We know that this edge is shared with this sketch's edge, and we know the angle down there. So we'll choose that bottom edge. And then, let's see. This one's pretty convenient. We just type in the 120 and it'll place it right. You know, you can resize this if you want. It's up to you, but I'm just going to turn the visibility off and then sketch on it. So I don't like seeing it. I'm going to project that back edge. I'm going to do a view look at and look back at that plane so that we're looking at it head on. I don't look at it from the other side, so do that again. And since the edge is there, I'm just going to hide that bottom portion, and we're going to draw basically this entire profile down to this edge. So I'll do some vertical lines. I guess like a little horizontal line off of that so we can get those circles lined up. And then of course we'll have like another line up here. So draw that. Set these circles to equal each other. And what the heck, let's go ahead and make them tangent on every side. So we have a collinear, so we don't need a tangent on the bottom of that one. Okay, starting to look like something. So we have 25 and 25. And it's 90 between circles. But it only shifted one way. So what we need now is to center this. There's not like a thing we can dimension from here to the center point. So let's just do a vertical constraint. Choose the center of this line, and then we'll choose the center of this projected geometry line. I believe this will be the last thing we need, just a 95 dimension. Put the fillets in later in a feature. Okay, so that actually looks a lot like it. Let's go ahead and extrude it. Going to be 20. And let's see what to do next. Is there any more fillets or just those two? Yeah, so let's do the fillets. Notice it takes care of that extra little edge there, so we don't have to worry about that. Then we'll go ahead and draw this big old circle up here. Now we're going to make sure to project this hole because we need it to be a through-all hole, so we don't want to seal it up. 65. And 25 tall. Okay, the last part. So one of the perks of drawing in reference to the origin is you usually don't have to struggle too much. We can simply project a few things and get everything worked out from it. So I'm going to slice graphics so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I projected a few edges. I'm going to make them all construction lines so it doesn't mess up our end result. So what you need for a rib is actually this shape right here, essentially. It just needs to know kind of a path, and it'll fill in the rest. So if you notice, there's not a bottom line. There's just this triangle without the bottom line. So what you need to do is choose that top point, this top point, and then where that region will end, you'll draw another line. And what it'll do from that is it'll actually fill in that entire area. But if you notice, it's still, sometimes when you're drawing, your geometry is projected. So what happened is I have new yellow lines that weren't there a minute ago. So I need to go back and make those construction as well. So now I can do that command, choose my rib, and I need to make sure to choose parallel to sketch plane. And put in 16, make sure it's both ways. And what it'll do, at the very middle, it'll make it tangent perfectly to it. And then it'll slowly taper to fit the circle's contours at the extent off center that it's at. So basically that's why you do a rib, because that would be very hard to detail, without doing the computation for you. I would definitely struggle with it myself, so would not want to do that. Alright, so we'll save it. Detail this guy. It was metric, right? Yeah. I guess this is our default. Yep. Cool. I don't think I'm even going to bother with these views. Take a look and see. I know the primary one we're going to need is this auxiliary view up here. Looking at it, we can delete this view. Yep. We'll keep the top view so we can detail these circles. So we'll keep these 4 views. Alright, so first and foremost, let's get those center marks in. If you notice, I chose the biggest circle. You still have to choose the little one to get that little tidbit in there, but I always choose the bigger circle. Get more extension past feature when you do that, and that's what we're really going for. And I'm going to extend that. Need some center lines. Almost missed these guys. This one's a tough call. I could go with center marks or center lines. It's so off center, but I guess we'll stick with the marks on this one. Okay. So we've got a radius of 40, a diameter of 65. That's probably about all we can really get in this view. We'll commit to that 135. Technically, the 95 dimensions to here. You don't want to dimension the headlines. I do like an overall because you can take 135 and subtract it from 40 and you get the answer you need still. Looks a lot cleaner on paper this way. Okay, so now we'll do this 95. May jump around a bit. I don't want to lose track of where I am on the page of the book, so I am going to put quantities in on these. Since there are multiple, and I don't want to have to mention it here as well. Yeah, it's tough. Okay, so 95 there. And we'll put that angle there. I'm going to dimension a rib here. Well, you know what? Actually, here would be a great place. Kind of perfectly out of the way when you dimension it here. Okay, so let's put in 2 times radius of 10. That may be it. Let me double check. Yep, okay. So let's move our views around. And in the same vein, I'm going to break the alignment. And then we'll just fling this little break line off the page and turn off our view label. Actually, we need to put the view label on this one still. What was the name of it? Unfortunately, that view label never knows where to go. You know what? It's kind of just a crap show. We'll just put it here, roughly aligned to the top of that one. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Okay. Last but not least, another metric one is the jig base. Okay, so how to go about this one? Let's draw this view, and I think that we will draw this square portion, the cutout in the holes as a second feature, this shape, and then we'll just add in this cut after. We'll see if it works out that well in practice though. We'll do a right side view so that we have our proper layout. And then, let's see, I'll kind of just use a rectangle as a template here. 2 rectangles. And we'll kind of connect the dots-ish. Okay. Now, the one unfortunate caveat of doing this is I'm going to have to extrude this little extra piece in later, but we'll see what I mean when we get there. Need some perpendiculars in there. A couple of them. There we go. You know, when you delete out the rectangles, you lose some of that implied constraint stuff. Okay, so it's an overall width of 100 though. $75 long. We're going to definitely knock out as much as we can with this sketch. So we're going to do cut out this hole and then this hole, but I don't think you'll be able to see it. Yeah, so this slice. I don't know what these dimensions are, but I'm just going to slap it all in and I'll plug them in after. I'm going to assume that these circles equal each other. Okay, so 35 by 30. Try to work in different ways so you can see there's plenty of options on how you want to go about these kind of assignments. This one's 15 by 15, isn't that convenient? Okay, so we've got 10, 10, 15, 30, 35. Yep, cool. Okay. We'll just extrude through all of that both ways. All right. Now, let's go ahead and do this goofy shape over here. So we'll need to do another angle plane. So we're going to choose this, actually no. We'll choose this edge since it's aligned to the center. So we're going to choose this face since we want it to pass through it. And then choose this edge and choose, let's see, so 0 puts us there, but it's going backwards again. Let's try minus 150. Perfect. Okay, cool. So, let's draw that shape. One thing we do know for sure is that center crosses through this edge right here. And we're not given a width. Okay, it's 25. So that width is 50. So it's a diameter of 50 circle. The smaller one is not going to be drawn here, actually. Let's put a point. If we draw the circle here, we'll have to do a second one to extrude through, because this is an addition extrude. So if we're going to put a hole in it, we actually will have to do a second feature. So we'll just go ahead and save the struggle and just do a actual hole command. So I'm going to realign to that sketch, and I'll just draw some random shape here. A little large, that's fine. Okay, trim away this little tidbit and that. Now, there's not a great place on where to locate this, so what we're going to do is actually choose this edge because we need it to be kind of past where the sketch actually crosses into the body of the feature, but we don't want it to go underneath. So having this little edge here is probably the best we're going to accomplish. So now we'll do a tangent to that edge here, and we can go ahead and extrude. Make sure you choose both sides, and then we're going to do 2 next again, and that'll fill it out without going underneath it. Now, if you notice, it kind of looks like it, but we are going to have that little curvy portion here like I was kind of talking about. First, let's put our hole. It's going to be 20 millimeters. I don't know why I like to default to the last unit used, but that's okay. Okay. One final sketch. And I don't know how big this circle is. I guess it's diameter 50 / radius of 25. We'll pull it kind of where it's supposed to be. And then I'm going to project this edge and this edge. And this circle needs to touch that point. And then there's a couple of ways to do this 5-dimension right here. I choose this edge, and then when I'm hovering, notice I've got the regular arrow dimension, but as I get closer to this quadrant, it pops up that, and if you notice closely, it looks like it's to the quadrant of the circle. So what it's going to do is a tangent dimension, so I can actually just put it in there and do a 5. If you're having problems getting that snap, you can always just draw a line, you know, like to the end, and then just dimension to that line. As long as the line's constrained, that'll also work. But since, you know, we got a first try like that, we won't bother with it. So I'm going to do 2 features based off of this sketch. I'm going to do a 2 next, add in that little rounded portion. And then I'm going to turn the sketch back on, and then we'll do the cut portion. Oops. So we're going to have to do a 2 and choose that face this time. Turn the sketch visibility back off. And there you have it. Yeah. Sometimes you can't really do, you know, one thing with one sketch. So at a time like this, you kind of just got to give and take. All right. So let's save this and we'll wrap this up. Oh, I opened it wrong. That's okay. All right, so it's a little small. We'll try 2 to 1. That's fine. I don't really like this view as a starter. Let's see what else we got. It's really not great either. The intention is to keep it this way, given the views. We'll commit to it, but I really don't like it. Technically, I actually like this view the most. See, that ISO view is just golden. But, you know, we'll see what we get. Decide how to play with it. Alright, so in this intent, I almost think we can get rid of the front view, even though it's silly. Let's see. Yeah, let's do it. Low and stuff. Okay, so we're going to keep that view. We'll do the top view instead. And if you did delete this view, you can just project again. I believe it would be this view. Yeah, so you go to the top left. I'm going to delete it. Do an auxiliary. And as is customary, really, we're going to break that link. Alignment. Move it over. Turn off the sketch, or the label visibility. Add it here. You know, come and think of it, I don't think I'm putting all these in cap. Dang. That's okay. That's okay. Make sure you guys are, though. Turns out this is a little big. Let's try 1.51. Okay. And let's put in all of our center marks and the center lines. I like that. I might leave that. I've changed my mind already. It just doesn't look that good. Okay, so center line, center line. Let's extend this. Looks good. Alright, so let's get that low-hanging fruit out of the way. This little cutout. I'll try to keep my dimensions aligned where possible. What's funny is I don't think that did align. Didn't. Sometimes the Inventor will get you like that. Alright, so do that overall width here. This view is just so useful. Might as well use it for every bit we can. And make sure you put your 2 times in front of it. Something like that. You know, actually, in hindsight, I think I want to move this circle dimension to here, so we can have this over here a little more tidy. Although, you know, this view is better. It is kind of cramped. You know what? I think I'm going to change it. It's fine. One of these things with, you know, learning to draft effectively is you're going to try things in a view and then maybe not like it as much as you thought you would. So, you know, that's one of these things you're just going to have to experiment. See what works for you and how you think things look best. Ooh, you know what? Let's pull this from over here. I noticed I clicked that edge, but it was way out here, so I need to pull it to the edge over here instead. That might be it. Let me double check everything. Oh, this view. Yeah, there's that. Okay, so even though this edge is aligned, I'm going to actually add this dimension in, just because that would be great to know if you were given this assignment to draw. Crucial stuff, really. So, with that, you could pretty quickly reproduce this. I like the way these are placed, not really, but it's an awkward view. So, what can you expect? Okay, let's just move these views around and we'll call it a day for today. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of a perfect square shape, but I don't think we can really wing it like that. So let's. Yeah, it's not bad. You know, like really, you don't even need this view if you don't want it. I just like to be able to see, you know, that true shape. Because, you know, like this is great, but if someone hands you that, you're going to be struggling a lot more than if someone hands you this. So, anytime you can get 3D in there, why not? I think that's decent. I mean, you know, you could have more space between the views if you wanted. But I'm not going to sweat it too much if you don't have all that space there. All right. Well, that's going to be it. Thanks, everybody, for watching.